Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating idea from a 1966 text that looks at the two sides of our own intellect. Its incredible power, but also its hidden dangers. So, let me ask you this. Is it possible to be too smart for your own good? It sounds kind of weird, right? I mean, we spend so much of our lives trying to get smarter, to learn more, to sharpen our minds. But what if that very sharpness, our greatest strength, could actually hide a pretty significant weakness? To get to the bottom of that, we first got to understand the raw power of our intellect and why this source material says it's something you have to handle with, well, incredible care. Okay, let's start with a really powerful metaphor from the text. Think of your intellect like a super sharp, double-edged sword. It's an amazing tool, right? It can carve, it can build, it can create with incredible precision. But if you're not careful, that same sharp edge can easily cut the person holding it. And that is exactly how the source describes our intelligence. So, how does this amazing tool actually turn against us? Let's take a look at what happens when a brilliant mind is left completely unchecked. Wow. The overly intelligent man ultimately has to burn in the flames of unhappiness. That is a really intense and provocative statement from the text. What it's suggesting is that a mind guided only by raw intelligence, with nothing else to steer it, is basically destined for chaos. It gets so tangled up in its own thoughts and its own cleverness that it just can't find any peace. And here are the specific consequences. The text argues that an unchecked intellect leads to this kind of arrogance that just totally blocks any chance of inner peace. The mind's need to constantly analyze everything becomes a source of conflict, and it ends up harming not just you, but everyone around you. The source even goes so far as to call it humanity's great enemy when it's left to run wild. So let's lay it out. On one side, you have an intellect with no guide. It becomes a weapon that harms. It leads straight to arrogance, unhappiness, and down a really destructive path. But what about that other side? What's the missing piece here? Well, the source gives us a very specific answer. It introduces this idea of a guiding force, a balancing principle with an ancient name, Shraddha. And this is really the million-dollar question, isn't it? The text suggests our intellect is so powerful it could grasp the entire universe. If that's true, what on earth could be strong enough to guide something like that? The answer is Shraddha. Now, this isn't just faith in the way we might normally think of it. The source describes it as a deep-seated reverence, a kind of moral compass that gives the mind a stable foundation to stand on. It's the essential partner to raw intelligence. It doesn't crush your intellect, it gives it purpose. It gives it direction. So what happens when you actually bring these two powerful forces together? That sharp, analytical reason and that deep, grounding reverence. The source gives us another beautiful metaphor here, the ankush. So picture a massive, powerful elephant. The ankush is that small pointed tool that the rider uses to guide it. Now, the ankush doesn't overpower the elephant, not a chance. It just provides gentle but firm direction. In the exact same way, Shraddha doesn't suppress the intellect, it just steers its immense power away from destruction and towards something constructive. So the process is actually pretty clear. You start with this raw, uncontrolled force of intellect. Then you apply Shraddha, that moral anchor of reverence, and the result? A total transformation. The intellect is guided onto a brand new path, one of creation instead of destruction. And here's the final metaphor from the text, which I think is just beautiful. An intellect without Shraddha is incomplete. It's like a flower bud that has all the potential in the world to be stunning, but it can never fully blossom. It just never reaches its true purpose. All right, so let's go back to our comparison chart, but this time let's fill it all in. Now you can really see the two paths side by side. The intellect can be a weapon that harms or a tool for creation. It can lead to arrogance or it can lead to true wisdom. It can be a source of constant unhappiness or a source of real peace. And the key difference every single time is that guiding force of Shraddha. So what's the big takeaway for us today from this text that's nearly 60 years old? Well, it all comes down to finding that path to genuine, lasting inner peace. Okay, here are the key points you've really got to remember. First, your intellect is a tool, a really powerful one, but it should never, ever be your master. Second, to get to true wisdom, you have to balance that raw reason with reverence, with Shraddha. It's that exact balance that transforms your intellect from a potential weapon into a tool for creation. And ultimately, bringing those two together is what builds the foundation for real sustainable inner peace. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. As you go about your day, just consider your own mind for a second. Is your intellect a tool for building a better world and a better you? Or has it maybe become a weapon, sometimes turned even just a little against yourself? The answer, it seems, is all in the balance.